Scent of a Woman is a 1992 drama film directed by Martin Brest that tells the story of a prep school student who takes a job as an assistant to a blind, medically retired Army officer to earn money for a trip home with his family for Thanksgiving. The following scenes are a couple of my favorite that I have chosen to break down. The characters are first introduced when Charlie comes over for an initial interview and to meet with Frank. As we can see here, when Charlie enters the house, he stands alone in front of the doorway. The door closes behind him, letting little light in from the outside. This medium shot of Charlie shows a frame within a frame view of him outlined by the door. This medium shot with the closed frame environment of the kitchen in the background and the tight, narrow walk-in space between the counters accentuates Charlie's discomfort in the house. An important element of this scene is the low-key lighting that helps to illuminate Charlie's stumble upon this new world of Frank's. The daylight coming from the outside of the small framings in the door poses as the only source of light to the musty atmosphere of the kitchen. Charlie remains in the kitchen, being careful not to intrude on Frank. A medium close-up shot shows him knocking politely on the frame of the room entryway, calling in softly to Frank with a nervous greeting.
Sir?
Don't call me sir.
I'm sorry. I mean, Mister, sir.
Uh-oh. We got a moron here. Is that it?
No, Mister.
Commission in a camera store. Graduated to it.
The continuous cuts between Frank and Charlie shows a ray of light coming in from the window, which acts as a barrier between them both and places them right in the cross-section of the thirds in the frame. The pace of the cuts also allows us to catch the reaction, mostly had by Charlie, of Frank's dialogue. The lack of lighting inside the house is a symbol for Frank's blindness, because indoor lighting is most futile to the blind. Such a discrepancy in lighting between the outside and the inside of the house reveals the strange new world into which Charlie has just stepped. One of my favorite parts of the scene is the dialogue between these characters. Colonel Slade is quick to dismiss and talk down to anything Charlie says. The dialogue in this section helps to show the anxious tension that Charlie is feeling in the situation, and the discrepancies between the characters' personalities.
President Bush went to Andover, Colonel.
You sharpshooting me, punk? Is that what you're doing? Don't you sharpshoot me.
The pace of cuts in this scene is quick from character to character, which is perfect because once again, it gets reaction shots from Charlie. This is one of the most important scenes in the film because despite Frank's aggressive persona and dismissal, Charlie agrees to take the job. In this next scene, there is a series of shots in which Charlie and Frank are sitting in an airplane on its way to New York City, a trip on which Frank strong-armed Charlie to go. The close frame of the airplane is an accentuation of the fact that Charlie is in a situation from which he cannot easily get out. On the other hand, there is something about Frank that makes Charlie feel more comfortable. It is a very touching series of shots wherein Charlie encounters a part of Frank that he cannot help but find admirable. Frank's out-of-character respect and adoration for women.
Or lips. And when they touched yours were like that first swallow of wine after you just crossed the desert.
In this shot setup, the camera has an eye-level, medium close-up shot on Frank in the window seat, looking out at the sky with a tumbler glass of Jack Daniels in his hand. In this shot of Frank, the glass of Jack Daniels that Frank slides softly in his hand is a prop element that resembles the charming intoxication that Frank feels for women. Here, the camera moves back and forth in eye-line match shots, with a close-up on Frank's face, showing his soft emotion on the subject, and a series of close-up shots of Charlie looking at Frank and catching his reactions. Continually, as throughout the whole movie, the pace of cuts gets Charlie's reactions as he feeds off what Frank is saying, whether it makes him laugh or feel awkward, happy, mad, or sad.
There's syllables in this whole wide world worth hearing. Pussy. Ah! Are you listening to me, son? I'm giving you pearls here.
I guess you really like women.
Oh, above all things.
This scene on the streets of New York City takes place on a crowded sidewalk with people walking in both directions. Charlie and Frank are seen walking towards a camera that traces them with a tracking shot and a normal lens. The scene opens with a wide frame, but as the characters continue to walk, there is a slight zoom that almost goes unnoticed and ends with the frame on both of their outside shoulders. The costuming element in this scene, particularly in Charlie and Frank's outfits, is an important part because it makes the two stand out in the midst of the crowd of people. While everyone else on the sidewalk seems to be more casual weekend dress, Frank is wearing a tailored suit covered by a beige overcoat, and Charlie is in a sharp black sport coat with a tie and dress shirt combination. The fact that Charlie and Frank are so well dressed and presentable is an insight as to the content of their class. The setup of the scene, combined with the people walking and the tracking shot, adds to the sense of realism in the moment. It makes it seem as if we are walking with Frank and Charlie, and it gives a natural feel and authenticity to the world. And once again, both characters are centered in the middle of the frame.
Ease the blow. Let me buy you a drink. Come on.
The film's climatic scene takes place at the Baird School auditorium, being interrogated by the headmaster. In the scene, more than any other in the movie, it is ruled by dialogue and framing. The camera shows an eye-level medium shot of Charlie sitting at a courtroom-style table with Frank sitting at his side.
Mr. Sims, I will give you one final opportunity to speak on.
Mr. Sims doesn't want it. He doesn't need to be labeled still worthy of being a Baird man. What the hell is that? What is your motto here? Boys, inform on your classmates.
While the headmaster is filmed by a low wide-angle medium shot, standing at a podium to show the jeopardizing effect that he can have on Charlie's future, this angle shows the headmaster at a stance of power over Charlie. The setting technique used here, in the form of the headmaster's podium, the courtroom-like table that Charlie sits at, and the disciplinary staff in seats lined up like a jury behind the headmaster, helps to illuminate the danger that Charlie faces.
No, I'm just getting warmed up. I don't know who went to this place. William Howard Taft, William Jennings Bryan, William Tell, whoever. Their spirit is dead, if they ever had one.
Frank does not hesitate to come to Charlie's aid as the headmaster's gavel falls on the young man's future. Frank stands up to put in some words on Charlie's behalf, and the camera focuses on Frank with a medium close-up at a slightly low angle to emphasize the power that he presents and the respect that his voice demands. The camera view of Frank shows the amount of influence that Frank's voice has on Charlie's well-being, just as we saw in the exposition when we are first introduced to Frank Spark. Medium close-up with out-of-focus students in the background show power and domination in this scene of Frank. An array of cutaways show a vast range of emotional response from Frank's dialogue, including the headmaster, Charlie, Charlie's friends and father, and the students of Baird. Frank takes over this scene from the headmaster when the camera follows Frank's rise as he stands up and the camera tracks backwards slightly in one fluid motion.
Here wasn't selling.
Sir, you're out of order.
Out of order? I show you out of order. You don't know what out of order is, Mr. Trash.
The rest of the scene is ruled by close-ups of Frank as the camera gives him the power he demands.
If I were the man I was 5 years ago, I'd take a flamethrower to this place. Out of order. Who the hell do you think you're talking to? I've been around, you know. There was a time I could see.
Shots excluding Charlie, Frank is positioned at the right intersections of the third to visually picture where their headmaster is, who is not pictured in the frame. Lighting helps infatuate this scene even more by lighting half of Frank's face and casting a shadow on the other half.
No prosthetic for that. You think you're merely sending this splendid foot soldier back home to Argonne with his tail between his legs, but I say you are executing his soul!
The wide-angle shots of Frank and Charlie are slightly tilted upwards, and they are both strategically placed on either sides of intersections of the thirds in the frame.
The lot of you. And Harry, Jimmy, Trent, wherever you are out there, fuck you too.